Hello and welcome to On Leading with Greatness. I'm Jim Salvucci. This week's installment, The Success Trap, the reasons why appearance beats achievement. Get born, keep warm, short pants, romance, learn to dance, get dressed, get blessed, try to be a success. Bob Dylan, Subterranean Homesick Blues. Leaders think a lot about success, so let's do that. Success is obviously the goal, but what do I mean by it? All too often, we focus on the wrong kind of success or the wrong metrics of success. More generally, our society worships the appearance of success. We worship wealth. We worship power. No matter how people got there, we admire them for being wealthy and powerful. We worship fame to the point that some people make themselves infamous, notorious, just for the attention. And what the hell is a Kardashian? People crave the glory of being known, even if that means wallowing in humiliation. When we learn that a powerful or wealthy or famous person has done bad things, we tend to poo-poo it. We even justify with platitudes. You have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. It's true enough, but it's small comfort to the eggs, no comfort at all to those who don't get to partake, and no great shakes for the underpaid farm workers either. And who's doing the cooking? By the way, have you ever heard anyone use that platitude to explain why the wealthy should pay taxes? Well, you have to break a few eggs to get wealthy. How many of you wince at the very thought? It's heresy in this world where we worship wealth. And I say without irony, at all cost. Now, I led with the statement that we worship the appearance of success, not success itself. We know intuitively, through evidence, that many of the rich, powerful, and famous out there, not among us, are pretty miserable in their lives. Their marriages collapse. Their kids hate them. They're on drugs, legal or illegal, and they spend dreadful days pursuing even more wealth, power, and fame. Their choices and behaviors suggest discontent. So can they be truly successful? I don't know. Maybe all that apparent success more than compensates. So let's switch it up a bit. Humor me by contemplating this question. Is it better to fail honestly than to succeed corruptly? In other words, who is the greater success? The person who is true to their values but never gets ahead, or the person who compromises, a euphemism for abandons, their values to achieve wealth, power, and/or fame? Perhaps you're tempted to lean in with the observation that the person who sticks to their guns but gets nowhere can at least sleep well at night. I would counter that, maybe so, but it can be tough to get a good night's sleep when your mattress is the pavement. Harsh? You bet. But the price of sticking to your values can be surprisingly high, while the rewards for abandoning them are vast and seemingly endless. If you've ever been disciplined or fired for not knuckling under to corruption, particularly as a leader, you know exactly what I mean. I've been there. Now, I'm not advocating that people go around acting all self-righteous, trying to get themselves fired in the name of their principles. I'll leave that for another post. I'm just pointing out the glaringly obvious but relatively unspoken truth that the fast track to success is usually paved with capitulation, subordination, and hypocrisy. Which is not to say that one can't find wealth, power, or fame within the scope of one's values. This can happen in one of two ways. One, you've worked really hard to assure that you remain true to your core principles and have corrected whenever you've strayed. You had plenty of good luck, put in hard work, and deserve your success. This is usually a fairly long game and outcomes are not assured. Two, your core values would be vices to any decent human being, and you're probably not listening to this anyway. But what if, as is true with so many, including myself, wealth, power, and fame continue to elude you even as you plug away, never abandoning what you hold dear? Where is the success in that, let alone the glory? Assuming the sidewalk is not your mattress, you could look to the totality of your situation or look at it in contrast to the successful but compromised crew. Probably like you, I've worked for some pretty unsavory types who achieve wealth, power, and even a modicum of fame. It's amazing what a particular job title can bring you. I've had some of those storied job titles myself, and I was stunned and a little appalled by the perks. I've worked for people for whom that was the whole thing. The title and whatever tidbit of glamour that it engendered became their reason for doing and even being. I've watched complete buffoons gain some lofty title and ride that for their entire careers. The assumptions we impose on just the appearance of success are extraordinary. That getting a particular job is indisputable evidence of merit. Frankly, sometimes even often, the flat-out worst get the best. We see this in our media all the time. A person achieves political office through whatever means, and journalists instantly defer to them and their authority as though their new office grants them inherent virtue. It's as though upon election all wrongs are righted, all sins are forgiven, all slates are wiped clean. How many times have you squirmed through an interview with a politician that made you just want to scream at the reporter, just call out this jerk's lies to his face? He only won the race because he ran unopposed. But the apparent success of getting into political office overawes us, makes us sheepish in the presence of even the worst offenders. Remember former Congressman George Santos? How long was it before the press finally stopped treating him as a reasonable person with a slightly dodgy past? His many, many layers of lies upon lies had been exposed for months before the media shifted and actually called them lies. The same outlet would report on his bullshit, but then deferentially report his denials as though they had credibility. Would you be surprised to know that there are current members of Congress with similar dubious backstories as George Santos, and who are treated like reasonable people and even respected politicians? No matter that their very existence is built on half-truths, mythologizing, and out-and-out fabrications. For many, including the media, their political achievement alone somehow obliterates their sketchy origin story. Making it is all there is. How you make it doesn't matter at all, which is to say that we worship the appearance of success, which is also to say that the appearance of success is not success, at least not as decent people measure it. So what is success? At the risk of sounding overly relativistic, it's like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. For many, maybe most, that pursuit of wealth, power, and fame is success. When they achieve it, though, what then? How do they find satisfaction, contentment, or even rest? And for the vast horde of the unwashed people like me and probably you, how can we find contentment with our tiny slice of the collective pie? How do we find satisfaction in a world where our worth is measured by the unattainable? People often fall back on platitudes about family or faith and such. And that's true for some. For most, though, it's just another dodge. They want something more, and, as the Buddha suggests, our longing is the very source of our suffering. The Stoics said much the same thing. Epictetus wrote, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Seneca said, "It's not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." I admire the Stoics, even if I don't always embody their teachings. When I think of my own evolving understanding of success, I can see that I have moved from a modest grasping to a more modest grasping. My notion of success has always involved a desire to live comfortably without much concern for money. When I achieved that, I wanted more. Circumstances forced me to dial back. In recent years, I've learned to content myself with contentment, and it's good to reassess. Aside from finances, one of my measures of success has long been to have a loving and stable marriage. Got that. A modest but comfortable house. Bingo. A meaningful friendship or two. Done. And universal love and admiration. Still working on that one. So, I've been wondering, what is it to want more? Would that bring true success, or is my relative level of comfort the thing? Is my current state of satisfaction a portrayal of my notion of success, or a revision? To strive, to want, to need drags us forward relentlessly, but there comes a time when it's all just too much, or maybe it's just enough. For leaders, these questions remain constantly in play. What is success? What am I striving for? How do I know when enough is plenty enough? The best leaders learn to set their own markers for success. What do they hope to achieve, and how do they know when they have achieved it? Relying on measures set by others or by societal expectations is a fool's game that happens to drive so much that is bad in this world. Great leaders bypass all of that to find true success, success that means something lasting in the context of their reality. That's how leaders find success. How do you measure success? How do you assure it is meaningful? Leaders define success in ways that defy social norms, and I can help. Unlock the great leader within. Download my free resource, the Transform to Greatness Toolkit, now. And check out my new book, Greater Than Great, available on Amazon. And why not check out my talk for TEDx Clarkstown? You can find it on YouTube. I look forward to hearing from you.